This video is basically about how to upgrade your Savage Access. There are actually a lot of different upgrades out there available. They're just not advertised as such. All right. Uh, when I this Savage Access was a gift to me. My uncle died and gave it to me, and so I did not want to permanently change it at all. Everything can be reverted back to the original state that it was in. But I wanted to rebarrel it. I wanted to put a new stock on it. I wanted to put a scope on it. First, let's talk the stock. The stock is probably the biggest thing in your Savage Access that's going to need to be upgraded because it is atrocious. Oh my goodness. This is a Boyeds stock. This is their Varmint series. I really like it. This was originally a 308 Savage, okay, with a pencil barrel. I purchased for it a Boyeds stock that was designed for a 308, so I knew the magazine would fit this inlet pattern. But I also got it for a heavy taper, okay, and we'll talk about the barrel in a minute. The Boyeds stocks, let's say if you want to upgrade your rifle to, let's say you bought a Savage Access, it's a 308, or maybe even a 223, okay, you can upgrade it to a bigger cartridge. I mean, you can upgrade it to a 6.5 by 284, you can upgrade it to a 30.6. I mean, there's a bunch of different options available to you. Because all of these receivers are long actions, so they're all exactly the same. They're all going to be inletted the same way. All you're going to be changing really is the magazine. All right. So this was originally a 308, and I purchased one with a heavy contour, the 308 bull barrel that Savage basically sells, and the aftermarket barrel that I purchased fit for it perfectly. Now, a couple other things about stocks is that this only comes in like an ugly black, okay, and doesn't even match the finish on the receiver. So I repainted it. Don't just go to Walmart and buy crap spray cans, okay? You want a nice matte finish, no glossy crap, okay? That'll be really reflective. You do not want that. This is an AMP paint, which is almost an epoxy type paint. It's very, very durable. It will not scratch off. That is something you want to take into consideration. As you can see, there's a lot of, if you get really close to the stock, you can see that there's, it's almost like a bee blast type finish. The way I did that is I basically held the can, well not the can, the gun, far away from the stock so that the paint molecules, or the paint droplets, would dry halfway before they reach the stock so that they would pebble up almost like. And that creates a much more matte finish. It's got a nice texture to it. Put it on nice and thick, just go slow. The barrels from E.R. Shaw, they taper to 0.8 inches at the muzzle, but 26 inches long. They have a bunch of different varieties. Pick an E.R. Shaw barrel that is a small shank. The small shank on the Savage Access is the same as all other small shank Savage Accesses out there. Another thing about Savage Access. The Savage Access is a long action, okay? That means that your magazines, basically, this was originally a 308, okay? Magazines are shorter than the actual action is. So you could, in theory, take this, you could get a stock for this thing from Boyeds for like a long action. I know they make this in 270, that's a long action cartridge. And you could buy an Herbco or an E.R. Shaw barrel that's for, let's say, like a 6.5 by 284. That's a really good cartridge, okay? It's a long action cartridge. You'd have to do some major modifications to the inletting because they don't have a heavy barrel contour for that Boyeds stock, but it'll fit, okay? You won't have to change the inletting out here, and this is harder to do than just changing the barrel size. Something else to take into consideration is when you pick a good barrel to upgrade your Savage Access, pick an accurate cartridge, okay? I wanted to continue to be able to magazine feed, so I went with a cartridge that I knew would be very accurate, and that's the 6.5 by 47 Lapua. This thing's a Tack Driver. It shoots quarter MOA all day long at 100 yards. I actually didn't really have all that great expectations for this gun. I think I underestimated this cartridge and did not initially bed the stock. I just came out here and developed a load for it, and it shot fantastic. So I'm actually out here again today. I'm going to do more load development. That's because I basically bed the action. Bedding the back end of these is tricky because there's no tang, like on a normal Savage 110 or something like that. So you can only bed really about this much of the action. That's the forward half. Try to bed just as much as you possibly can. That did change the nodes as far as the harmonics go in this rifle, so that's why I'm back here again to do load development. The bolt face on these, this was originally a 308. So the bolt face will fit a 6.5 by 47. That's a 0.47 inch rim size. The 6.5 by 284 is another cartridge that will fit this. So if you've got a 308, you can convert it to, actually if you got a 270, you can convert that to a 6.5 by 284. If you have a 308, you can convert it to a 6.5 by 47. You can also convert it to a 6mm BR, which is a really accurate one. Shaw, I believe, does make barrels for that caliber. You're going to have to single feed a cartridge like that, so don't even think about trying to feed that from a magazine. So you might have to put in like some sort of bottom plate in there just so you can feed better. And it's a long bullet, it's sitting out there a long ways with that particular cartridge, so you really don't want to magazine feed a cartridge like that. A couple of other thoughts is about these bolts. The bolt is essentially the same as any other Savage out there, even their big target actions, okay? You can flip out and interchange all the parts. The bolt handles can be all interchanged. Firing pins can all be interchanged with the long actions. That bolt heads can be interchanged. You could switch this thing up to a Magnum cartridge if you wanted to, just by buying a different bolt head. Now, I do recommend, since this is a small shank, I would recommend that you go with a cartridge that is a recessed rim, or like a rimmed cartridge, or maybe like a belted cartridge, something that doesn't take full capacity of that chamber, basically, because then you're not going to have much metal around that chamber. And Shaw, I believe, does not make any Magnums, at least in the small shank, so you're going to be limited to this size. A couple of other cartridges you might want to think about is maybe a 6mm PPC, something like that. Though you're going to have to get more creative with this bolt face. You'll have to basically push this thing in order to get it down to that size. That's a little more technical. A couple other things you might want to consider is even bottom metal itself. There isn't any bottom metal available. I've measured the screws on this thing though, and if you stay tuned to my channel, maybe even subscribe, in the future I am going to eventually attempt to inlet this a little bit larger and basically put in a bottom metal for AI mags, because I've measured the screw distances for the action screws in this here on my receiver, and they are the same as any other long action Savage that I've encountered. So it should be compatible. I've also looked at the bottom mag of the receiver, and it looks like it's the same. So that'll be the future. Now, as for money, okay, how much did it cost me for this? Like I said, I inherited the rifle. The stock was 160 bucks. I painted it myself because these only come in black, unfortunately. The scope I already had, but SWFA scopes are cheap. You can get one for 300 bucks. I think for $380 you can get one rings. This mount here, this is a $40 mount. The bolt handle is another thing that I upgraded. That was 12 bucks. The barrel was $260. I think you can get just a barrel if you've already got the action wrench. And you can get that for $200 from Shaw. I'll have links in the description for all the different places that I purchased all this stuff. The trigger is something that's going to need some work. Obviously, it's about a 6-pound trigger, but I still shoot pretty good with it. A couple of other thoughts that I might consider is just maybe if you're not into hand loading, if you refuse to reload for some odd reason, consider a 6.5 Creedmoor. That's also a really accurate cartridge. Not as accurate as the 6.5 by 47, but it's very close. There's a lot of good factory ammo available for that. I'm strictly a hand loader, so that's why I stuck with the 6.5 by 47, and I knew that it would feed perfectly for magazines, and yeah, it's really accurate. I come out here and I outshoot a lot of other guys at this range.